hopefully the last couple trays have been doing fine. Extra same exact apartment. You gotta come by. It's crazy. So many insane.
It's crazy that you're still there. That's
It's wild.
it's going on 7 years.
7. Yeah. It's so nuts, and it's like
Is the rent the same? Or is it more?
I think it's 42 now. I think it was 38.
When we moved in, yeah.
It was rent stabilized. We didn't know at first.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's like barely
It
more
goes
than
up,
my
like,
place, which is, I mean, nicer neighborhood. Like it's in Greenpoint, but it's
So it's
like
a
much smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, and now there's just 3 of us, so we have that windowless room. We decided is not a room anyone should.
The
live
one that
in.
I was living in? Yeah.
Like it was you, and then my friend Evan was there for a few years. We had like one person who lived there for like 6 months, who was like a nightmare. But after that, we were like, okay,
That's not a room. Yeah.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, but it's been great now.
Is that you got is that like a studio for you now?
My room
Or is your
is
room
the
your
studio.
studio?
I had like 1 year where I lived in the room next to mine, and then my room was a full studio. And I honestly just preferred being in one.
Just
space.
in one space.
It never felt. Yeah, I don't know. That room is like amazing, but
What do you use my old room for?
right now it's our cat Beans' room.
No way.
Except
That's
the best thing is
awesome.
like we threw like a crazy New Year's party, and we turned that room into the opium den. So we
Oh,
call it.
sick.
We have like this crazy floor couch situation, and we
Yeah.
have like this one of those like Chinese like lamp lights.
Yeah.
So it's red, and there's like a little floor coffee table we bring up there, and so it's just like where everyone. We've had a few times where we set up mahjong in there, and it's just like.
You know how to play
during-
mahjong?
I've learned. I like somehow joined this through some friends I know. This like mahjong tournament thing of just like really fucking cool people who
Yeah.
host like these crazy mahjong tournaments in Brooklyn, where it'll just. I mean, it's like super low key. Everyone is nice, and there's just like tons of food, tons of drinks, and like 15 mahjong tables, and I feel like everyone kind of knows each other. And
That sounds so fun. Yeah.
it's so fun. Yeah, it's a good game. It's not that complicated as long as I have the cheat sheet thing.
The cheat sheet. Yeah.
Yeah, but hell yeah, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you in here.
So crazy.
Yeah, for the listener, for context, Aaron and I are related. We're what are we, second cousins, third cousins?
I
I
was
don't
trying
know.
to think about.
So you're my dad and your dad are cousins.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but I think my dad and your grandfather.
We're
cousins, maybe?
siblings or first cousins. I think
They're not siblings because my dad just has a sister.
Okay.
So maybe
Oh, yeah.
I think my dad and your grandfather are first cousins. Or my
There's like some photo that we had in our living room that I think you guys also had of like
Yeah.
my grandpa and another guy.
there's
They're,
somebody
like sailors.
somebody
And
would know.
Yeah,
But yeah, and we lived together when we both first moved here
right before the world
in
ended.
2019. Crazy 6 months.
So insane.
Yeah,
What a like weird blur.
it really is a blur. Yeah.
It's so crazy to think because it's like, I always feel like that's where I made the luckiest decisions when like things didn't go very well at first when I moved.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I like didn't get a job at first, and I was really stressed trying to get a job, and I thought I was gonna try and work in music and was gonna work at like Sirius XM because I was an intern there in some summers, but then that job fell through, and so I had to get a job at like the bakery that I was like working at a bakery, and then I got the coffee shop job.
And then that turned into a wine store.
Yeah,
I walk past that place sometimes. Yeah,
It was great.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that was just like a lucky move. I almost, like probably a month before COVID, I got a job offer at a label to like work at it, and I decided to keep the coffee shop job, which was so lucky because if I didn't do that, I would have been stuck on Zoom calls
Right.
all through COVID.
What would you have been doing as like an A&R or?
It was like a creative management part of like an electronic music label that I had genuinely like no real interest in the music, but like was just wanting to be part of those like spaces. And it was amazing because like, you know, the world paused and I just got like an unemployment check every week until my boss at the coffee shop decided to turn it into a wine store, and then we just started like learning about wine.
So that was during COVID that it became a wine store.
Yeah,
because nobody was coming into coffee shops, but people were buying wine. I do remember wine was big during COVID.
Dude, it was wild because it was like a course of like 4 months where we just like, neither of us had known anything about wine, but he always wanted to open a wine store. His wife at the time had ran the coffee shop. And so it was like, obviously coffee shops were over 100%. Yeah. We had been closed. And when we opened as a wine store, it's like, the place is like it's not much bigger than this room.
Right,
it's like
it's small.
Version, yeah. And it was wild because it was like the first time there was like social interactions happening with people you don't know. Like everyone was in their tiny circles, but now it's like everyone's masked up. And, you know, everyone's hotter with a mask. No one's seen new people in a long time. Yeah.
Well, some people are hotter with masks. Some people are not. Because sometimes, I remember this when I first started substitute teaching, we were still wearing masks. And I remember sometimes when, like, you'd see, like, a teacher or somebody walking out and then they take the mask on, and it's like, wow, that is not what I thought the bottom of your face would look like.
It is that was the funny thing, because it's like the wine store, it's called Hearts. It's got, like, the red neon Hearts thing on the inside. And me and like my best friend from college, Evan, he moved out to New York and started living with me. And so we were both working there, like 22, 23 years old. And it was like the whole job was like based on like flirting. It felt like it was like selling a bottle of wine to someone always ended up, and not in the sense that like obviously no one is like meeting people and seeing each other because like everything is COVID, but like it was just like this energy of like it's so exciting to talk to anyone. Yeah. And so it was just this hilarious thing. But like on any day of the week, like obviously the weekends were nuts. Like there would be, because we had like 3 people out in at a time, like we would have a line stretching down the block of people, and we would just be like playing music in there pretty loud, and we'd have like multiple bottles open and people could try wines, and like it just was like the closest thing you could get to a social function. Right. And it was really, a unique time. It was so fun though. I honestly loved it. It was a good job.
Yeah, and now you're doing music full time. When did that start? What was the transition to full time musician?
It was full time. It was interesting because like I kind of had the classic COVID progression of like, while everyone was like on their own, TikTok kind of became the central lane of communication, and like I finally bit the bullet, downloaded the app, and like started just posting little clips of myself playing trumpet over songs, and that like pretty quickly grew super fast. But that app like is not easy to build community on. Or anything consistent. So like even though I was like building a numbers following, I wasn't like able to do much with it. Like it was something that was just like very spread out. And so it like opened some doors, but like for the most part I was just like, it was kind of crazy because I was at the wine store for like 5 years. I left like a year and a half ago, and it felt like I was nearing the point where I had been having like a few successes with some songs, and like was feeling like I was building like sort of a fan base, but like I was also almost 27 at that time, and I was like, damn, do I have to like figure out something more consistent? Because at a certain point, like the world was more or less back to whatever we consider normal now, and I was still at the wine store. It was still like a great job, but like I kind of was getting that feeling of like, okay, is this happening? And finally, but like I guess like 2 years ago, almost like a year and a half, I'd started like a new project with the that was kind of more trumpet focused, but I was like stopped using TikTok, and it was kind of just like the mental thought of like I want to do something that feels like it is amazing and I'm super proud of it, and I feel as though I'm locked into this world of like following what the next trend is. Like, this is how you're supposed to do something because this is what's blowing up. Now this is how you're supposed to do something. And I'm like, I'm never going to be great at those because those weren't the idea of what I wanted to do. I'm like trying to do something else. And with all these little floating versions of projects I was doing, like this kind of idea had come together of doing these like 20-minute improvised like guitar, trumpet, ambient pieces. And like I'd been filming a lot of different music things, so like I was really like comfortable and like using a camera. And I just like committed to being like, I'm gonna do 30 of these. They're gonna be on YouTube, one shot, one take, no edits of anything. Like I just wanted to like look beautiful and sound beautiful, no hooks, nothing. And it was very like, I want to say like it was just a beautiful moment of alignment, because like it was an idea that when I started, I was like positive in a way, not actually positive. I just had like a lot of faith that it was gonna work, and so I was like, I committed. I was like gonna do 30 of them, however long that would take me, which took like about the first like year, and then I would decide if it was a good idea or not. But like by the like 8th or 9th one, it already was like growing, and YouTube is just, I think, the best. Yeah, I love YouTube, and it's consistent, and I feel like there's community there.
And you've built up a pretty solid following
Yeah.
from it. So was that the thing that like having those on YouTube, and was that the thing that took you from a place of like having to work another job to being like, I can pay my rent with music?
Yeah, that was finally got to the point where, yeah, like just the ad money on YouTube was able to like match that of what I was making at the wine store. So at that point I was like, okay, I feel like I was working there like 3 days a week, and then it was just like less and less. But it was the classic thing of like, when I finally left the store, that's when everything like totally stopped for a moment.
Oh yeah.
I was like, thought I had it, thought I was able to make this happen, and then I had like 6 months of being just so broke and stressed. And but then, you know, stuck with it. Everything kind of came back more solid than it had before, and it was like all worked out. So it's been awesome. Like it's crazy to me now that like I have like 3 different projects that are so fun, between like the ambient music, the folk stuff, and like a lot of DJing now, and they're all very like fulfilling and exciting, and like it's just, yeah, it's a cool feeling to be like, I'm gonna make something and I get to share it with a cool community of people, and they're oftentimes like very consistently there, which is just like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I came to, you know, one of your shows where you're doing like the ambient trumpet meditation. It was very cool to see, but I didn't even realize like how big of a following you had built. So I'm like, asking me, I'm like, oh yeah, how do you know Aaron? And they're like, they're like, that's his name. Like they're like, I found him. They're like, who? And I found him on YouTube. I drove 3 hours to come here. Like,
dude, crazy. I feel like, I don't know, every time I've done a show, there's been like a few people have come up to me who have been like, someone like drove from Delaware. My last show, this woman like flew out like a week early from South Korea.
Wow.
And I was like, what? This is like, I feel like I need to like give you something like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, I feel like it's a unique situation that I'm still very much in the early phases of learning how to like work within this space, that I want to have like more of a relationship with the people who listen to the music. Because like when I meet people after I play shows, like, so because it's like these ambient long form pieces, so many people will just be like, yeah, I pretty much listen to your music from morning to night every day. Which is crazy, because I feel like they often like want to talk to me about what their relationship is to the music and like what they do. Like a lot of people like write or study or work or emotional things. So it is really interesting, because there's like something intimate about it that like I feel like is separate from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. It's just like so awesome to be able to make this stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, it feels like it's sort of like a bigger risk from what the music you were making before was, but I also think it is like more authentic to you in terms of like me listening to it, where I think with some of your early music, it's obviously it's great, but like I think there's points where I'm like, oh, he's trying to sound like artists that he like, which is what we all do.
Yeah.
But I think with this stuff, I'm like, especially because it's improvised, like you're very much just in it, and you can tell like that comes through, and I think that's why people connect to it. And the bigger risk you take, like the more people will connect to that.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I've had that thought a lot about the idea of risk in what you create.
Yeah.
Where it's like every time, like especially when I'm doing them live, but like every one of these things that I perform, because it's like a one take improvised thing, there's a bunch that I've like gotten halfway through and like messed something up, or like played a super wrong note that I was not gonna be able to get around, or like the camera's died, or like so many versions of like an amazing take going wrong. And I think that's actually something that's special about this, is like I only have a certain amount of control. Like even like the weather getting really bad, because I've recorded a lot of them like outside, and so there's always this kind of sense of risk when I start it, which kind of adds to the fact that like I also don't know if I'm even gonna play that well. Like I don't know if I'll like really get into it. Because there is like a mental meditative thing where like sometimes when I play them, I'm like just thinking thoughts the whole time. So and other times I'll like finish and be like, oh wow, I feel like I went to space. So there is this, and then when I'm performing live, it feels like there's this collective risk, because everyone is here to listen to me play something that I don't know what I'm gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know what chords I'm gonna play, and I have no idea what I'm gonna play on the trumpet. So there is this like special sense of like none of us know what's about to happen. It could go wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't have like a fear of it going wrong, but like just the fact that there's like a lack of complete control kind of, I think, adds to something special about it, which I think in a lot of art, when you see people doing risky things, it's cool.
No, I completely agree. But what made you start doing it? Like what was the sort of impetus to be like, I'm just gonna do these improvised like hour, how long? Some of them are like 20 minutes, some of them are like an hour, like what was the thing that made you be like, this is what I'm gonna focus on?
It was kind of like a really natural coming together of multiple projects, like, and I think that's why it's kind of a special thing, because I don't think it makes sense as an actual pitch to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the time when I did it, I feel like ambient music in the last few years has really, really gotten a lot more popular, but it felt like at the time pitching the idea to anyone of like, I'm gonna do 20-minute improvised trumpet pieces with like one shot and no hooks and anything at like the peak time of short form content. I don't think anyone would have wanted to be a part of that project.
No, yeah.
But I had been doing these like live things on TikTok at that time, where I was just like playing like instrumentals of jazz standards and just improvising on the trumpet for like an hour. Like a lot of people would tune in. And at one point, someone had messaged me being like, you should call it COULOU's Cafe. And I was like, that's an amazing idea. And so that's where like the name came from. And then I felt more or less like what I wanted to play over was music that I love the most. And like I grew up playing jazz, and like that's so much like from like where my knowledge comes from. But when I'm like writing, like doing like my songwriting, it's very much more in the world of like folk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where this idea of like having this folk chords and music that like I feel like really was moving me at the time. But instead of like singing songs over it and making it like a 2-minute song with lyrics, I was like, if I just like explore these chords with the trumpet. And it was something that I was kind of doing on my own and not recording and like really enjoying. Like, so when I would be songwriting, I would sometimes just use the looper pedal to like loop some chords and like figure out melodies. And I would find myself like getting distracted and just playing trumpet over it for 20 minutes and being like, that's way too enjoyable to not be something I should like look into more.
Right.
Because I'm having such a good, and it is one of those things like maybe it would have just been fun for me and the audience wouldn't be able to connect to it. But it was one of those things where like when I started putting those out, like it felt like people were receiving it pretty similarly to the way that I was like experiencing.
Yeah, it seems like the fun, the enjoyment that you're having playing comes through.
Yeah.
So like, tell me a little bit more about like your sort of your musical the evolution and journey, because you started like playing jazz. When did you start? What was trumpet was your first instrument?
Yeah, piano when I was a kid, just like classic piano lessons.
Yeah.
But
And your dad's a musician.
Yeah.
He's a doctor, but he's also is a musician.
He's a doctor and amazing folk guy. Like he's like Bob Dylan, Beatles kind of dude. Like, so always grew up. Like I grew up hearing him play music, thinking that he had written all those songs.
Oh yeah.
You know, it like wasn't until I was like 12 or 13 where I was like, I hear like "Don't Think Twice," and I'm like, who's this dude singing it? Like,
somebody did a cover of my dad's song.
It was like so confusing. But so he was obviously like a big influence for me growing up. But when I transferred schools in 5th grade to this public school, and like the school I was at before didn't have a music program, and this one like required you to join band or choir, and I was like really wanted to play the saxophone, but
that's what I played.
Yeah. It was like that was a cool instrument.
Saxophone
looked sick, like, but they had like hit their limit of saxophone players, and they only had like a trumpet left, and so that's how I ended up with the trumpet. And I just like there was something very like that just made a lot of sense with it for me, like from the beginning. I got like pretty obsessed by the time I was in like 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
Where it was just like something that I felt like I could express myself and feel like it became like a friend to me as a kid. So all through like middle school and high school, I never was like considering that it was something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, because what I am doing now is like exactly what I think I would have wanted to do, but I didn't think I could like fathom what that would look like.
Yeah.
And I was playing in orchestras and jazz bands, and that was really fun, but like I didn't really like the whole idea of that life. And so the fact that I'm here now is crazy to me, because like I always thought like I wouldn't be able to survive doing music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy now because it's like, yeah, I like this timeline.
Right. Yeah. So you were playing like in like orchestra. Was that like, was music like through like middle school and high school, that was like the main thing you were doing? Like that was your sort of main extracurricular outside of school?
Definitely was. Like I was in band, you know. It is funny to think like the progression of how you feel about playing music, because like going into like 6th grade, which is like terrifying for anyone. I was tiny. I was like 4 foot 7 going into middle school and through most of middle school. And like I would walk to school in the mornings, and I would even like get to school before our PE was like in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'd try and get to school before kids would get there, because I wanted to like find the janitor so he would let me into the band room so I could put my trumpet away. Because if I had to bring my trumpet into the locker room, it was always like embarrassing, like band kid.
I remember because I stopped playing saxophone after middle school, but I do remember that of having to like bring it to school and being so embarrassed carrying that case around.
So embarrassed, because it was embarrassing to practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, shout out to my mom who didn't let me cheat on my practice logs, because it was like we had a requirement thing that said to practice for 30 minutes a day, and everyone's parents did not care, because they were like, I don't want to listen to my kid
be shitty at trumpet or saxophone. Yeah.
They would happily just sign that they were playing 30 minutes a day, and my mom was, she was strict about that. So, and I honestly like started to really enjoy practicing, but like it was always a terrifying thing, like just bringing the trumpet. But by the time I was in high school, like around my sophomore year, I got into like a honor orchestra, like outside of the school. I was playing in like chamber groups. I was really into jazz band. Like our jazz program, we had like just a phenomenal teacher. Our band program absolutely sucked. So I like had these spaces that I was like really, really connected to and loving. And the first time it actually felt cool though, because it was something that like was totally separate from the people I would hang out with. Like none of my friends like would ever see me play trumpet. I was like going to do orchestra stuff, and like that was just like a completely detached world because it was like embarrassing to me at the time. But I remember there was like a school talent show thing, I think when I was a sophomore, and a senior had asked me if I would play this trumpet solo from like this song that she wanted to sing. And I remember being so nervous for that because it was like the first time I'd played amongst peers.
And it was kind of the first time outside of like a more official ensemble. Yeah.
So it was like literally just like me, a piano player, and her singing, and it was like modern music. And I remember like everybody being like, I can't believe you play this instrument and you're so good at it. And like the response was like so positive, whereas like this like idea that what I love to do can also be received well was nice. It was a cool feeling at the time. But
isn't that so funny how it's so embarrassing to practice something, but when you're good at it and people see you do it, they're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. But it's like how you only get there by practicing a lot.
I mean, that's just the weirdest thing about being a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like all my friends these days are like obsessed with something. And I feel like those are my favorite kind of people. Is like, I don't care what you're obsessed with. Like, I just love anyone who knows a lot about something.
Right.
And I've always been someone, whether it's music or like a million of my other random obsessions, like I've always been someone who just like likes to hyperfixate and learn everything about specific things. And I find like so many people today who I consider the coolest people out there are people who were weird in middle school and high school and like doing something that at the time they could have been bullied for, but now as an adult it's like the person who was like cool as shit is working for his dad's real estate company. Right. And I don't know. I don't want that life.
No.
You know? So I do think that it is an interesting thing because like it is weird. I'm like, if I could tell my younger self like, nah, this is actually cool. Like you just don't know it yet. I don't know if that would have helped. I think part of the process was like coming to that relationship on my own. But it is just like an irony of like, yeah, all the coolest people today are people who were probably pretty weird when they were like in 7th grade.
That was the thing. I mean, I think you have to like be able to be like, I like this thing and I like doing this whether or not that makes me cool.
Yeah, that's real. Because I also think that that's like a sense of like authenticity that allows people to connect to whatever you're doing. Because you can, I do agree with that too. Because you can always kind of feel that with, especially in this social media world, the difference between people who like want to be seen doing something
versus the people that just want to do it. Yeah.
Which is it's a really interesting kind of it's cool.
Yeah. So so were you in any bands outside of school, like in high school?
Yeah, I mean, there was pretty much in high school. When I was playing trumpet, I had one friend. Shout out my friend Kenji. He's an insane saxophone player, crazy talented jazz guy. So we were like the two kids at school that were like becoming very, very talented at our instruments, and like so we would record together a lot and like make music in just different capacities, but like nothing very official. But when I got to college, I joined a band, and it was like an R&B funk band that would play like insane house parties. But I was playing trumpet. We had a friend on trombone and saxophone, incredible singer, and everyone was just like really good at music. It's honestly funny because I've played in so many groups now, and I still think back like that college band was kind of way too good to be a college band. Yeah, and we were playing like Al Green, like Let's Stay Together, like having that happen at like an overpacked like house. It was just like, it was amazing. So that was kind of more into the introduction space of like connecting, playing the music that I was listening to. And I feel like that opened a whole new world of things.
So what was the music you were listening to like as a kid?
Probably, everything in like the SoundCloud world of like the Chance the Rapper, hip hop, Vic Mensa, Kids These Days. Yeah. And then I was also listening to like Louis the Child and all the EDM SoundCloud remixes. And I was also listening to like so much jazz and so much classical because I was playing those. So I was also like very obsessed with like Russian composers, obviously like Tchaikovsky and Mussorgsky and like people like that. And then jazz, I was listening to so much like Freddie Hubbard, Chet Baker, like, so I was getting like a very broad spectrum of music education. And I always found it interesting that like the jazz and classical people I'd be around and do music with, more classical, but kind of both groups, like kind of stuck to listening to those kinds of music.
Oh, interesting.
And then like all my other friends who didn't play music obviously were like listening to like hip hop and electronic music and everything else. And I had like a deep interest in all of those. And once I started making music, it was cool to like see how those all kind of seamlessly influenced like the stuff that I was making.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's so what are you listening to now? Like what's been inspiring you lately?
What's been inspiring me? What did I listen to today? I feel like it's been interesting. I've been DJing more vinyl, and in the last year, just having a good vinyl setup. That's probably like most of the hours of music I listened to this year was like stuff on vinyl, but over Spotify, because I think I'm so over the app, and I feel like I don't even know how to use it anymore.
Yeah.
But I found like a lot. I don't know. There's like a label called Habibi Funk that has like.
Oh, they're amazing.
Amazing.
I know Habibi Funk. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Like there's like a lot of like 70s and 80s, like Middle Eastern rock and funk, and that's been a really cool world of music I've been listening to. I've been practicing a lot of trumpet right now. I'm kind of in the wanting to improve at certain things phase, so I've just been like transcribing. I've been working on my tone, so I've been listening to. Chet Baker has like a Live in Tokyo album that goes on and off the internet every few years because of copyright issues.
Do you have the vinyl?
I don't, but I have the tab open on my computer to buy it right now. Okay. When it comes back in stock.
Yeah.
So like that, and also I've like been DJing like DJing stuff. I've been putting together more like deep house, techno, and funk things that have also been really fun. So kind of similarly to Always, just like a pretty
just
broad
everything.
thing and stuff. Like, yeah, so I have a show on Saturday with like one of my favorite DJs in Brooklyn. His name's Toribio, and most of his music he only releases on vinyl. And it's like cool. So many of my I know, it's so cool of him.
Do you put your stuff out on vinyl?
I have a vinyl release coming up soon. So
of a new project?
Yeah, of a new project. So that'll be finally ripping the Band-Aid and investing in those, because it is cool. It feels like everyone wants more of a tactile music experience.
Yeah, I think there's also something about having a physical. I think physical, as we become more and more digital, I do think the desire for physical media becomes stronger.
Yeah.
Like not just, I mean, not just vinyl, but like books. People love like DVDs now. I feel like that's a big thing.
Yeah, totally.
And there is something about like if everything's on the phone, like none of it is special.
Yeah.
And when you have the physical copy, then it's like, this is special. Like I can look at it, and appreciate it.
Totally. I also feel like it's like the world of just owning something. Like I think it's one of those things where like I bought an iPod actually a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of work, but I do use it pretty frequently still. And I'll buy like an album or two a month, and then that's like kind of all I'll listen to. Mm-hmm. But there is like a good
like
feeling.
The old days.
I know, and it's kind of a cool thing of like everything is like rented or subscribed, and then you just like
you don't own anything.
You don't own anything. And there's something special to being like outside of the functioning world. Like this is just mine. Like I just have this. I mean, like, how have you been listening to music recently?
Mainly Apple Music still. I have a bunch of vinyl. Most of it's at my parents' house, but I have the record player I have right now. it is just slightly slow. Like it is probably running at like 31 or 32 RPM. Like it's
My last record player had that same
so
problem.
I need
So
to.
funny.
It's obviously it's something that's definitely fixable. Like I just need to
Yeah.
bring it somewhere.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do. I miss vinyl because in college I listened to vinyl so much, and I think there's something really great about. It's also like it's just there, and it's a little bit more out of your control. Where like listening to music on, it's so easy to like skip. And I am somebody who loves like a full album. Like I love listening to albums in order, and like on repeat.
Totally. I do think that's kind of because I feel like there's such a classic thing of like the audiophile pretentiousness. Like I get everything on vinyl. I'm so cool, but it's like it's not about any of that. I think the issue with phone and music is like everything is so programmed to be short form and everything is so skippable, and it's just like expecting yourself to be like a disciplined and patient person on a phone is like crazy.
It's impossible.
It's just like those things aren't made for each
Yeah.
other. But like getting up in the morning and like taking like an Oscar Peterson record and be like, I want to listen to this man play piano. I want to listen to both sides of this. It's like I put that on and then I go like make some coffee and it's like the feeling is like so, and people can talk about like what's the sound quality. It's like
It's not even about that.
It's not even
no.
about that. It's like something that feels more alive, and whether or not like a blindfolded test of deciding what's what. Like when I put on a vinyl, it feels more alive to me. I feel like you're like bringing something to life in a way, and it feels more like personal. And I do think like I just struggle to listen. Like if I want to get into an album now, that's kind of been why I bought an iPod, is because I'll just forget that I even like wanted to listen to that album because I'll like go on Spotify and then, just the sea of different things, it'll get lost. So I was just like, I'm buying this album and I want to like be like, okay, I only have like 8 albums on my iPod right now, so like this is something I know I'm gonna come back to.
Right. Yeah, and I mean the only time that I really listen to vinyl now. So my mom has a friend from college who has these beach houses in Maine that he lets us stay at, and he has an insane record collection. And the one we stay at, it's a small house, so you can kind of hear, like if you put it on, you can hear the record from anywhere. And so while I'm there, I just am, and it kind of annoys my parents sometimes because they're like, "Can we have like silence for a few minutes?" And I'm like, "No, but there's so many records I haven't listened to all."
Gotta hear them all.
I know, and it is great to just like you said, throw on like Kind of Blue or Abbey Road, like whatever is there, and just be like, I'm listening to this from start to finish while I do whatever I'm doing, whether I'm reading, writing, cooking, cleaning, But yeah, I remember as a kid, like having an iPod, and we had like a iTunes allowance. So it was like, did you have that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I just always had a $10 iTunes gift card that was like sitting on a desk somewhere. So I was sparing with it. But how much was your?
It was
like
$10 a month.
Okay.
So it was basically like either you could buy like one album or 10 songs.
What was your method? Would you like find the 2 most popular songs on an album, or were you buying albums?
I would usually buy. I think I would. I'm trying to remember. I think I would buy albums, but I also would, because they also had some songs that were like they would put out like most songs were 99 cents.
Yeah.
Then they would have like some singles that were free, and some that were like 29 cents or something. And so I would be like, oh, that's gotta get that, which is great. And that's like how I heard like J-Rock for the first time.
That's crazy.
But then I started once I got LimeWire, which was like still pre-streaming.
Yeah.
That changed everything. But even that, you would randomly get, because I would just search an artist, and you'd randomly like get introduced to a song or new artist that you've never heard before.
Yeah, it was the Wild West with like anything outside of iTunes. Because I do think like the formative time for me as a kid in terms of like developing music taste, a big part of it was like being like, I have $10 on iTunes, and I was someone who would be like, I'm gonna buy the 2 best songs on each album rather than buying the whole album, because I just didn't understand the importance of an album. And I also feel like there were so many incredible albums coming out back then, but it also felt as though a lot of records were coming out at the time where there were just 2 good songs.
Yeah. And I would do a little bit of both. I think it varied from month to month. Yeah.
But that was Yeah, because by the time I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I was trading, like we were just USB transferring songs, and I was using like DatPiff to listen to like different records and like Wale. I remember like I really did like the world of like
the mixtapes on DatPiff. It was
where they were like sampling like 2000s pop songs all the time and then rapping over it, and I was just like
like Childish Gambino's the I Am Not a Rapper mixtapes. Yeah. And yeah, Lil Wayne, No Ceilings. Like that was Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I feel like all of those, it was just such a specific time musically, and it was interesting because I feel like our generation kind of grew up with this thing of like, you had music that was like handed down to you. Like I remember we had, my parents were like both working a lot when I was in elementary school because I had like 2 sisters. Like we had a nanny who would watch us sometimes, and she downloaded Wu-Tang 36 Chambers on my iPod in 5th grade, which was crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, I had that, the 2 albums I had on my iPod, I had like the little green iPod Nano.
Yeah.
I had 36 Chambers and I had Graduation, and
I do remember Graduation coming out. That was huge.
It's just so funny, like white kid in Southern California. I have no idea what they're listening to. I was like loving the like skit moments of like quotes like Shaolin shadowboxing, and I'd be like walking to school. No one is listening to this record. I'm not talking to anyone about Wu-Tang. I don't even know if this is cool music or not, but I just really like it. I have no one to talk to about this. So it was kind of a funny thing, like, but then in middle school, it did feel like it was the end of the mixtape culture, but it was a cool time where like, we were still just USB drives, like downloading each other's iTunes libraries.
Yeah. Was Acid Rap the last mixtape? Like, it kind of feels like it was.
It does. I think that was like the last time I heard a record on SoundCloud that like blew my mind.
Yeah.
There were definitely albums that came out after that I really liked, like in college, but even like my music taste or whatever maybe has changed at this point. But I so specifically remember being in my car and putting on Juice and being like, why is this like the best thing I've ever heard in my life? And yeah, I became obsessed with that. I feel like that, and then remember when Faces came out, I had that. Yeah,
Faces was, I guess, around the same time. Maybe Faces was after Acid Rap.
If it was after, then
it would have been Faces. But yeah, the 2013, 14, yeah, so Faces was... Maybe Faces, it was Faces. Faces was 2014, and I think Acid Rap was 2013. Okay, so I guess it was Faces.
Faces absolutely wins that. In the long term, I've listened to that record probably more than most.
I think so. I think that's probably the Mac record that I've listened to the most.
That one, it's actually crazy. I got, when I was like a sophomore in college, I got a bootleg vinyl from Germany of Faces.
Yeah, I remember you having that when we lived together,
And so now it's crazy because when they re-released it, there was a bunch of copyright stuff. Like Diablo, they re-recorded the In a Sentimental Mood John Coltrane sample. And like, kudos to the producers that like retracked that, but like so different than the original sample. And there's like, I feel like there's Wedding is one of my favorite songs, and I still don't know what this is from, but there's like the guy who talks at the beginning of like you work, you
go to a bar, you get into a fight. Yeah, that's not on there, right?
It's not on there.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And I can't even find the original on the internet at all anymore. Like it's all taken off SoundCloud and everything. So having that vinyl is like so important.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I like have all the original things on it. So I'm like, shout out to me 10 years ago for getting the bootleg of that, because it feels like a preserved piece of history.
Yeah. It's such an amazing record.
So amazing. I mean, I feel like whenever I start listening to that record, because it always comes back like every year, like at some point I'll be listening to it a lot, and that's usually when I make the most freedom-oriented, doing exactly what I want musical decisions, because that whole record feels like I'm just building a world.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's I don't even know. Like, I don't know if it's like his best, but it's definitely the freest.
The freest.
And
Yeah.
I mean, also part of that is that he was just on an insane amount of drugs. Like, I think he literally he was like, I was not on this planet when I made Faces.
It is crazy. He risked his life to make that record.
Truly.
And it is insane. Just like, because I do think that there's a difference between an incredibly great and perfect record and a record that has a real genuine sense of freedom. Like, to me, it's like maybe in the sense of like a D'Angelo record, R.I.P. as well, like takes a decade to make, and it's just like completely flawless. Like it's just too perfect. Everything is just it's just like divine. And then there's also this thing when you listen to Faces and you're like, he's like fuck every rule. He's doing exactly what he wants, and it's so deeply satisfying because it's inspiring in a way that's different than like a D'Angelo record would be.
Right.
Which also
which is funny because he samples
he
D'Angelo.
Like,
that's amazing.
Moment.
So good.
Yeah. So obviously very connected things, and I think that's like, it's funny, like even to the ambient project I've been doing now, so many people after I started doing that project would reach out to me and send me like their version, and like a lot of different series of these like meditation things on YouTube popped up after I started that. And it was so cool to me because I was like, obviously I'm not the first person to do ambient music at all.
Yeah.
But there was like a very kind of specific format to the way that I was doing these, and I've had like a lot of cool conversations with people. Like I was talking to a couple they're like political refugees living in somewhere in Eastern Europe right now from Ukraine, and they started an ambient music project with like guitar and kind of like lo-fi beats, and they've blown up in the last year, and they reached out, and I was talking to them on the phone, and they were like, we fully started this project after listening to yours and got really into it, and we just like saw this clear lane of something that we wanted to do that like we just didn't know that was something you could do, that people would listen to. And I feel like the project that I had started did come from that unique moment of like not giving a fuck, and being like, I just want to make this. And so it is something like with Faces, like you listen to a project like that, and I'll like sit down and make music and not think about what I'm gonna make. I'm just gonna make something because I could feel that feeling in that record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some other albums that you think of as feeling like completely free?
There's, I guess, a recent record that came out, because I feel like that's also been a thing recently, is like I just haven't fallen in love with as many albums. I did love the Daniel Caesar record.
Oh,
so much.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
He's so good. I think it might be like my favorite of his.
Yeah.
And
that song, Who Knows?
Oh, it's so good.
It's like, I'll probably be a waste of your time. My God. I love a good song that is like, that you just say something insane at the beginning, like, I'll probably be a waste of your time, but who knows? And then also I just love the fact that like whoever's playing bass on that record, on that song, plays like the most beautiful bass line at the end. It's like a full melody moment where he's just like singing on the bass. I love that record. There's a Japanese ambient artist who does a lot of cool stuff. Her name's Ichiko Ayoba, and she put out a record in the last like year or two, and it's like something between the world of like ambient, experimental, and like a Miyazaki world of, like, it's just like so much, and it feels like an incredibly free record because it's like you can just put it on and you just feel like this is her world. She wanted to make it, and so I've really enjoyed that project. Yeah, there's like so many albums, but off the top of my head, like those are like two recent ones that I was like gave me a lot of hope right now in music, because I think it's the classic thing, which has always been an issue, but obviously we're bombarded in a new way nowadays. Like, there's so much good music coming out, but there's so much music, period, coming out. So you have to sift through things.
Well, and there's also, it's hard because there's also like you go to any year through the history of recorded music, like dating back to the 50s, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously there's music before that, but I think dating back to the 50s really like there's so many classic albums every single year, and
Yeah.
there's so for every amazing album that is coming out each new year, there's also an album from every year that you've never even heard before.
Totally. And it is kind
And
of
there's so
cool.
much just music in general that not all of it's good.
There's so much to that. It's so crazy because it does feel. I mean, there's different moments in my life where you just kind of like become aware of just how much music has come out in the world, and then also how difficult of a process it is to like get the general public to be able to be aware of what is really good and what's actually just has like money behind it. Like, I remember on YouTube in high school, this like clip from Pat Metheny, who's like one of the greatest guitar players ever, is in an interview talking about Kenny G, where he's just like shitting on him, but he's talking about the fact that like everyone associates jazz with Kenny G.
Yeah.
Where like it couldn't be further from that, but it's just he's being represented as like the face of jazz right now, which is like really upsetting to the fact that like there's so much incredible jazz coming out at that time, but like all the money is behind one dude who's just not playing jazz. And it was like that's kind of an interesting point to the thing of like every genre of music, it could be really easy for you to like go on and click global top 100 and like, you know, I love pop music too, but like that's not reflective of what's happening in music, because it's oftentimes it's like people who are making a difference. It's every musician's favorite musician. You know, those are the people who are inspiring and creating the inspiration for even like those big pop songs. So it is an interesting thing on like just how things trickle down and like how things show up in front of people with music and like, but to the point of like 20-minute ambient pieces, I do think that's kind of a special thing to like have a like sizable supportive following on something that like could never be on a top charting thing, because it's just like, because like even now I'm releasing stuff with a label through the like with the ambient stuff, and like quickly the first big decision was like if we're gonna release stuff specifically on streaming platforms, the 20-minute pieces have to be like 5 minutes or less, because we just can't. I was like into.
And I saw one of the albums is like it's like 5 hours long. Like you know.
Yeah, it's like I put out an album. It's like 5 hours of music. So that was, and I was interested in the idea of creating these shorter form versions, anyways, especially because I like want to be able to do vinyls and stuff. But it was just an interesting thing where like I understood where they were coming from. Like they have all these relationships with streaming platforms and whatever, and like they're like, we just literally can't pitch a 20-minute song. Like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it is cool to see like outside of that lane, I've been able to like very like much break that rule and like have that work out, which is like cool, you know.
Yeah. Are there any albums, like older albums, that you've discovered recently that you really enjoy?
Okay, talking about Pat Metheny, he has a record that's called As Wichita Falls, So Falls Wichita, something like that.
Okay.
Look up Pat Metheny, Wichita Falls. There's one song, it's called September 14th, I think. It's so beautiful. It's an older record, but that one is just like immediately pulls at the heartstrings. A really beautiful piece of music. I've definitely made an intention to like explore more into the world of ambient music in the last year, and like there's an artist right now, harpist Nala Sinefra.
Did the soundtrack for the Smashing Machine.
Yeah.
Nala Sinefra was great.
God,
yeah,
so good. Yeah, I've gotten a few of her vinyls. So amazing. Yeah, I love that record. But I was thinking about that because the artist Harold Budd, ambient artist, who I cannot remember the name of his album that I was just listening to, but he's got a bunch of older records that are also just like super phenomenal.
Yeah. Do you have a comfort album?
Faces is definitely one of the comfort albums. Yeah, I feel it is funny. Like, I don't know. Have you had the experience of like going back to what you thought was a comfort album and being like, oh, my taste in music has changed too much that I don't like this at all anymore? Or maybe not liking it at all, and I won't even like name drop the artist that I have that feeling about.
Who is it?
Well,
I can cut it out.
I'm not even shitting on anybody.
I can cut it out if you want.
It's not a big deal, but like,
they're a fan of the podcast.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah, the one artist is listening.
Well, I was thinking when you asked the question of like the last good SoundCloud mixtape, and I was thinking Chance the Rapper's brother, Taylor Bennett.
Broad Shoulders?
He had like the American something. It was like
yeah.
And I remember like loving that record when it came out, and then I gave it a listen recently, and I was like, I hear this completely. I don't know.
Yeah, I think mixtape rap is actually a big thing like that. That just some of it hasn't like. It's not like. Did you ever listen to XV?
Maybe.
He was like a mixtape rap that I love. I mean, he was just great. He had like great wordplay and like fun beats and like nerdy samples, and he was like.
Oh yeah, there's so.
It was great, but it is something that I truly like loved in high school, like all of his mixtapes.
Yeah.
I do think that there were points in college where I like even went back to, and I was like, it not like it's bad, but it just doesn't hit the same. And that's an interesting thing about music, that some stuff is truly timeless, and then other stuff is just for a time, and for that time. It is amazing, and I think there's value to both of those.
Totally. I think that's definitely like, I feel like the conversation of where our generation's at now is like, we look back, the whole world of cringe, and like what the relationship is between being vulnerable and being corny and risk and all that. And I think that's kind of like made me think like Chris Webby.
Yeah.
You know,
a lot of the white rappers. Yeah.
Think of all the white rappers. Who was
Watsky, oh my god!
Like, I remember the YouTube video of him rapping about with a goat or whatever, like a physical goat, and he's just rapping super fucking fast, and it was like, when I was a kid and I listened to that, I was like, this is amazing music.
Well,
not that it's bad, but it's like, I wouldn't, if I played it today, the feelings would be, it doesn't hit the same, which is interesting.
But there's certain music, and maybe this is true with all art. I think a lot of rappers, certainly a lot of like later eminent, like thinking like Rap God, where it's like, this is more impressive than it is good. And I think Watsky's like an example of that. There's definitely, I know I've heard like Jacob Collier is like somebody who like, I think I've heard people talk about that way, where like what he's doing is insanely impressive. Like, he's clearly an immensely talented artist, but like it's not always like enjoyable to listen to or like moving in the way that like great art should be.
It's such an interesting thing, because especially I feel like being an instrumentalist, I'm always kind of going back and forth between this, where like seeing like someone like Jacob Collier, full like respect to the fact that like he clearly is making exactly what he wants to make. And it also like terrified a lot of musicians when he was just like, look how I made like this piece of music that has 650 audio files on it on my Logic computer, like on Logic, and like he just like is showing
my computer crashing.
Yeah, I know, I'm like, that would actually cause a fire in my apartment. But like,
he must have so many hard drives.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. Yeah, but is one of those things where it's like, you see people doing incredibly, I mean, and this is to the point of being like a trumpet player, like so much in the world of music. I think there's a distinction between an artist and a musician, and it's a Venn diagram. Like an artist doesn't necessarily have to be, in music, doesn't necessarily have to be a musician. Like, even in any form of artistry, like there's people who, in terms of like you don't have to be this instrumentalist. You don't have to know how to play chords. You don't have to know how to play a single instrument, but you can still make incredible music. And that's like your taste and your ability to put something together. Because at the end of the day, like whatever it took for you to make a piece of music doesn't matter. What matters is the experience the listener is having with that piece of music. And it's an interesting thing with like instrumentalists, where it's like so many of the greatest instrumentalists I've ever been around in my life can't write a good song. You know, like it'll be like listening to the most insane piece being played, and then like later having them like show me a piece of music that they're working on, and like the difference is like colossal. And it's like, for me, I always have insecurities about my trumpet playing, even though I'm really like good at the instrument. I also endlessly know how much improvement there is to be had. And I think like it's a constant practice of like finding peace with the fact that like what I create is exactly what I want to exist, which means that like I can always be getting better at the trumpet, but I don't have to like prove myself by being the most virtuosic instrument.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter like that what the highest or fastest note I can play. And it's a classic thing in jazz, like with soul, like going up to solo. There's like the person who's just like wants to be like Charlie Parker or whatever and like play, and you can hear it. It's like the music school kids.
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
like, they're playing every quote of everything and they're hitting every change, like all the changes, and it's like you are being like a bit of a rocket scientist person in this moment. It's like it's really cool, it's super impressive, but like I emotionally feel nothing. And versus like you could get up and miss all the chord changes, but pour your heart out into it and understand the instrument and the music enough that like everyone will feel something.
Yeah.
And it's a real question, especially like, I mean, jazz is a complicated place because there's just like the culture around it is always complicated, but it is like that thing at the end of the day, are you making music to be the best person at making music, or are you making music to like feel something and hopefully have someone else feel something? And it's
Right.
like this world of ego, it's so complicated because I think there's a magnetic pull to impress everyone, you know? And it's just, yeah, letting go of that and just, you know?
Yeah,
so.
I think that exists in everything. You know, I mean, taking it with music, I think like, you know, obviously you're talking about instrumentalists, but you know, I mean, how many singers are there that are better than Bob Dylan or Leonard Cohen, yet
Exactly.
make infinitely worse music, you know?
Yeah.
Or like Watsky. Watsky's a much better rapper than, like, on a technical level, you'd say he's a better rapper than Future. Which one of them makes better music, you know?
Yeah, like who are you moved by?
Right,
Yeah.
and I noticed this in comedy where I think a lot of times, because like, I'll see people like kind of shitting on a comic who's like killing and being like, he's not even a good joke writer. And it's like, yeah, but it's the energy that he's bringing to where like you will see people who like, you write their jokes on paper and they're killer, but they are not necessarily going to move a crowd in the same way that somebody else is.
It is interesting. Like, it's so much of it comes down to this feeling. Like, and I think comedy is such a unique example of like risk because like as an audience member, you really don't want to have to experience a comic bombing.
100%.
Everyone feels that, and it's just like that's a really clear example of like the confidence in a comic to have a sense of peace while they're doing something, and just literally needing awareness to what they're saying, but like being able to guide a crowd. And I think that's kind of the thing that I love about any good stand-up routine is that they're like just touching that line of are they about to take something in a back, and just so flawlessly like just riding along it. And it's like that level of like control is different than like the jokes themselves and how clever they are. It's like, yeah, it's a feeling.
And there's nothing worse to me in comedy than, well, maybe there are things worse, but I was gonna say than when you can see a punchline coming from a mile away, and like I want to be surprised by it. And like they're like, I think the best comics, like people like Chris Rock and Bill Burr, one of the things that they do so well that I try to do is that they kind of set you up in a way where you are expecting to not like whatever they're about to say, and then they're like, they get you anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also funny. We were talking about practice. Like stand-up comedy is the one thing where you can only practice in front of other people. Yeah. Like you can't like with trumpet, it's like nobody knew how good you were because they weren't like sitting in your room while you were practicing for hours. Yeah. Like where like with comedy, people are like, oh, he's, even if it's your first time, it's like you have to do it in front of an audience. They're like, they suck.
Yeah,
you know?
It is a crazy thing. I mean, I can't imagine like with your experience in doing stand-up and stuff of like, you do have to just like go through the thorny bushes for like a long time. Yeah. Because it is, I mean, I've had so many performances that I have bombed in my life, and I've been like, just felt so awful after when I've left. And generally with music, people don't experience it as bad as I have and when I've like had those moments. But with comedy, like, it is so vulnerable. It's such a risk. And that's what's like so impressive about it, is like being willing to take that risk and then show up again and again and again until finally like, you start really developing that skill.
Yeah, I mean, people will definitely notice you fucking up a joke more than you fucking up a note. But even with that, I'm like, there's so many sets where I thought I bombed because like I flubbed the wording of one bit, and then nobody in the audience gives a shit. Like they don't. They're like, oh, you had this joke that was funny, and like that's all they're really focused on. But it's like we're always gonna be more critical of ourselves than the audience is. Hopefully, I mean.
Yeah,
I think ideally,
yeah. It is tough when it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You should be a little more critical.
Yeah.
But that is real. Like, that's such a thing that you learn as a performer is I could be playing something and know that I did something wrong, but if I play right through that wrong thing with full confidence, then it was right. And no one will ever know that it was wrong. But if I stop and I'm like, ugh, or like if a comic, like you can see them seizing up, it's like, you're causing your crash.
You got to gaslight the audience into thinking you've never fucked anything up.
And that's the thing. That's what they say, like in jazz, of like there's no wrong notes. It's like because it's the next note that you play after the wrong note, and it's how you play the note after the whatever. That shows that. So I think that is a really interesting part about learning how to perform. Is like audiences just want to feel. It's a roller coaster. You want to feel safe, but also like you're taking a risk, but you don't want to fall out of the ride completely. Mm-hmm. And like that's
a great analogy.
Yeah, like being on stage for that is like you are the person that they have to trust. And I think that's why like an amazing performance is being like, we trusted you, you fucking killed it, and like that's how you build, community fans and like do dope shit.
Yeah. All right, we gotta wrap up. I just gotta ask you the question. Why aren't you more famous?
I think that I feel right now in life, like if I was asked a couple years ago, I would maybe have like a bunch of answers. But honestly, I'm happy I'm where I'm at right now because I feel like things are just growing in the way that they're supposed to. And every time I've thought I should have been more famous or successful than I had been at the time was a moment when I needed to learn how to do more shit. And if stuff blew up earlier, I wouldn't have had a chance to learn those lessons. So I'm not more famous because I'm where I'm supposed to be right now.
Oh, that's great. That's a great way to look at it.
2026, your wisdom.
Do you have anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
Honestly, no. I have COULOU. That's my music. Check it out, YouTube, and I have stuff that I'll be releasing. So hopefully you will see that when it happens.
All right.
Great to see you.
Great to see you, man.
That was a blast. Wow. Crazy.